one deserves a handout. That means they don't know what life's like for people who are struggling. It's callous and it's cruel for children to grow up in families under this kind of poverty. They're going to lose $5,824 a year, and the government's going to give back $750. That leaves them $5,074 short, out of a total income of about $25,000.
Shame on this government. Shame!
Shame!
These are families who, after the last round of cuts to parenting payment single, are barely surviving. And they're going to lose 20% of their income. Shame is unbelievable. It's one thing to suffer yourself. It's another to witness a child who is dependent on you, who has no one else to help them, to watch them suffer and be helpless to do anything about it. If there were the jobs available, it might be different. But a single parent has to fit in parenting around their work. They have to be there when their kid's sick. It takes a pretty special employer to work around that. I don't see employers being made to employ single parents. I just see single parents being made to go to work. So are the jobs out there? No, they're not. And is a job always what's best for a family? A parent has to decide that. A parent has to decide when their children are ready to not have them there as a parent.
Children come first.
Children come first, that's right. They say no children in a jobless home. Well, we say no children in a parentless home.
Yes!
And that's why we think this budget should be blocked. Block the budget! Cassie O'Connor.
Is that my caller?
Yeah, that's your caller. I'd like to introduce Cassie O'Connor to you from the Greens. Thanks, Linda, for that rousing introduction. G'day, everyone. It's so good to see you all here. And hello, Hobart. What a gutsy, fantastic city that we are. Before I begin today, I wish to pay my respects to Tasmania's first people, the Palawa Pakana. To Aboriginal elders, past and present, I pay my deepest respects. And I acknowledge the Palawa Pakana as the original owners and custodians of this beautiful island, Lutruwita, Tasmania.
Yeah.
Well, everybody is talking about the first Abbott budget. They're talking about it in workplaces. They're talking about it on bus stops. They're talking about it in the streets. They're talking about it in taxis. And the overwhelming sense is one of utter betrayal. Utter betrayal. Many of us knew Tony Abbott would be a lousy Prime Minister.
Yes!
We knew he'd be a hard right, heartless, mendacious ideologue. But last Tuesday night, he exceeded all of our grim expectations.
Yes!
On behalf of big business, of Gina Reinhardt, Joe Hockey delivered the budget of a bully.
Oh, yes!
This government has declared war on its own people.
Yes!
On the poor, on the sick, on the young, on the homeless, on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, on pensioners, on single families. Look at the list. This is the list of winners and losers out of the first Abbott budget. The losers list is very long. And don't forget, in a 30-minute budget speech, not once did Joe Hockey mention the words climate or environment.
Yes!
in subsidies, taking their total subsidies up to around $14 billion. The big polluters, it's their time again under Tony Abbott. And of course, Big Gina. She's a winner out of this budget too.
Most of those overlap anyway.
And as we know, an island where people are heavily dependent on support from the Commonwealth, where we have a high rate of socio-economic disadvantage, Tasmania will be the biggest loser of all the states and territories out of the first Abbott budget. We'll have our health system gutted. We'll have our education system gutted. They've refused to fund the last 2 years of Gonski, and that is a price our children will pay and our public education system will pay. They've attacked our young people, and in fact it's one of the most grievous wrongs that's in this federal budget. The demonisation, the marginalisation of our wonderful young people. It's so utterly, utterly wrong.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you're a homeless person, if you're a person who's looking for housing support, an upgraded Midlands Highway is going to be no consolation for you whatsoever. Now this is the thanks that Tasmanians who delivered 3 House of Representatives seats to the Liberals get for their vote. No wonder people feel betrayed. No wonder people feel furious. No wonder people are so utterly pissed off about this budget. And there are people now, thousands, tens of thousands of people gathering around the country like us to stand up for a fair go Australia. Stand up for a decent Australia. Stand up for a country that looks after its future generations, that takes its responsibilities on climate and the environment seriously. Yes, the tax on fuel, it does affect everyone. So this government will be ripping millions and billions out of renewable energy and sticking that money into roads and subsidies for the fossil fuel industry. Now, I'll wind up shortly, but Joe Hockey very recently said that he found the sight of wind farms utterly offensive. But he loves the sight of a good open cut coal mine. There was this fantastic thing on Twitter a few weeks ago. Someone said, who'd like to replace Joe Hockey with a wind turbine? It had hundreds and hundreds of retweets. Now, Joe Hockey said in this budget we would all have to share the pain. Well, he was lying. He was lying to the Australian people. This is a budget of bullies. And as the comedian Tim Ferguson once said, young Liberals is what happens when you don't teach your children to share. And of course, young Liberals grow up into people like Tony Abbott and Joe Hockey and Erica Betts. This budget was built on a concocted budget emergency, and it will be the poor, the sick and the weak who pay for this budget, but we can do something about it. The Greens will stand up to defend universal health care. We will stand up for the pensioners in the Senate. We will stand up for single parent families. We will stand up for the climate and for the environment and for our beautiful young people. We will stand there in the Senate and we will block. The very worst aspect of this terrible, terrible budget, because the message of Tony Abbott and Joe Hockey is, we want our country back. Thank you.
You hear me? Yeah, every time I sit down and try and read the budget, it brings brings me to tears because I work with poor people all the time. I see people out trying to find jobs, and I just recently found out the other day that all the CRS officers, all the programs for people who have hurdles to access work and employment are being removed. At the same time, this government is going to...
Point it upwards a bit more.
At the same time, this government is going to punish the unemployed by taking away their income for 6 months out of every year.
How's that good for the economy?
Yeah, it's not going to help the economy. It's going to help the lines and soup kitchens. It's not going to help anyone in this country. It's going to destroy the future of our youth. This is a government that doesn't care about our children. It doesn't care about our future. It doesn't care about our environment. I'm not a guy that normally gets up and gets pretty angry at stuff. I like to be pretty calm. But this budget is just too much of a shocker. We have not seen a government like this in our history, and we don't want to see a government or a budget like this ever again. So I don't have a whole lot more to add to what Cassie covered. She covered quite a bit. I want to see more rallies like this, though. I want to see more of our young people involved. And I'm going to finish my really short talk here by saying we need to block this budget through any means we can. We need to block these measures that are going to punish our youth, punish the disabled, and punish the unemployed.
Block the budget! Block the budget!
Next up we have Isaac Foster. He's a member of the National University of Students and the National Union of Students and the TUU as well.
Got that? Hold up nice and high. Okay. So it looks like it's going to rain. Let it rain. I'd like to thank Cassie. Like Cassie, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional and ongoing custodians of this beautiful state. Now, my name's Isaac, and I'm here from the Student Union saying, do not convict Tasmanian students to a second-rate university education. Now, I'm here because I am a student and because my job is to represent students in this state. I'm angry as hell. Now, I'm angry. I'm angry because my friend who is studying overseas on exchange called me on budget night, on Monday night, to tell me, Isaac, I'm scared of coming home and I'm wondering how I can afford a new tax on my insulin script, a new tax on my meds, while also trying to pay for a roof over my head. How I'm going to afford graduating in a couple of years as a young journalist looking for a job when there are none and not receiving any support from the government. How am I going to look after myself? I'm angry as hell because my little sister is at year 10 level. She's one of thousands of Tasmanian students who would be up for university education in 2016 when we're going to see interest rates on HECS debts going up from 2% to 6%. That's a mortgage on students. A mortgage on students. And she is one of thousands of young Tasmanians and thousands of Tasmanian families now asking, can my kids afford to go to university? Can I afford to support my kids going to university for a better education? That is not right. A tripling of the interest rate on HECS debts. Universities deciding their own fees by 2016. No New Start support for your first 6 months as you look for a job after you graduate. 6 months. 6 months in the dark, trying to support yourself, looking for a job. And a GP tax, a tax on prescriptions, a tax on GP visits for students in need. A tax on fuel with no concessions. With no concessions for students who live away from university and need them. Who can't afford to get into university and need a car. We need concessions. And you know why else I'm angry? I'm angry because the Liberals' Minister for Employment this year grew up in Tasmania. What is his excuse? Eric Abetz. I'm angry because he knows how making under 30s fend for themselves while looking for a job will hurt people in Tasmania, in the south, in the north, in the east, in the west, in the northwest, where I come from, where there is 21% youth unemployment. That is not because we are dole bludgers, it's because there aren't any jobs. And how will we see more jobs opening up to the unemployed students in Tasmania when millions and millions of dollars is being cut from innovation and research in our universities? Where are the jobs going to come from? These cuts are going to cripple those who are least able to pay. That is not how you grow your economy. You do it by investing in health, in education, by treating your university as a right for all Australians. Not as a privilege for those who can afford it, who are lucky enough to be born into a family that could afford it. You do it by telling students not that they're dole bludgers and can't be trusted with government support, but by treating us with the respect we deserve as the future workers, community leaders, future mums and dads in this state. And a good point. How many members of the cabinet paid a HECS debt? How many? How many? Three? Exactly as well. Another fantastic point. Parliamentary pensions of $140,000 a year.
Shame!
And we're being educated on how we can support ourselves. That we need to look for a job.
Cutting red tape on adoption so they can take your kids and you can't feed them.
Exactly. Now, it's been a dismal week. It's been a dismal week, but it cheers me to no end to see you all here today. Good on you all. Not everybody who stayed here can come here. Now, everybody here has a plan to how to keep fighting this budget for the rest of the year, as it goes through Parliament, as it goes through the Senate, for the rest of the sitting weeks of Parliament. If you want to help us stand up for Tasmanian students, get your phones out, because here's what we're doing. Now, this Wednesday morning, we're going to be sending a text to everyone who wants one, telling them to show up at UTAS and where to go. If you're with us, just text yes to 0498964521. That's 0498964521. Now, that's all from me, but you're going to see a whole lot more of us before Parliament goes on holiday at the end of the year. Thanks, everybody.
Yes!